Shadow Show.
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 Shadowing it.
Chris Cody, I'm going to need your help today. We've called in maximum reinforcements here, okay? We've called in Stugotz from Chicago. He's beat up from crushing Chicago and God bless football, crushing Weed Street. And we've got Greg Cody and a Greg Cody Tuesday because we're trying to throw the maximum popular things at our audience that it can only be said was really mad at David Samson yesterday. It took one day for the audience to get really furious with the things that David Samson was generally doing. At one point during the show yesterday, I looked into the right corner of what we were doing, and Jeremy and Jessica were not listening to the show, doing the show, participating in the show. They were just talking behind their mouths about David Samson in a way that giggle snorted and distracted me from doing the show. I've got full-on anarchy going on around here.
Like the way a coach will hold the play sheet over his mouth when he's talking to a player?
Like Andy Reid, yes. It was Jessica, though, that was doing it, except by doing it, she revealed to me that she was saying things that I wanted to hear and thus distracted me from the doing of the show. David Samson has now just come in from his show that I just walked out on. Nothing personal, every day, 8 a.m. to 8:50 on YouTube. He is back here today, but he is going to be in the Billy Tony region of the shipping container because we need to throw maximum popularity at the audience with Stugotz and Cody.
Could this be a Zion thing where any pub is good pub and that he got the people talking?
That's his job. I mean, to his credit, he got people upset. He made them emotional. That's the job of a talk show host. Good job, David.
He is a polarizing figure, and he comes in. He doesn't care. One of the things that I do admire about him, and there are many that I do admire about him, and I do need his help with business because I cannot be the one who is handling the money for our company without it being a real problem. So his business acumen is extraordinary. But the other thing that he does that I wish we had more of around here, because we got a whole bunch of social media preeners, he does not care who does not like him.
Yep.
Doesn't care at all. It's super unusual. There are not that many people in the media who are willing to do that.
I care.
Everybody does. The media is some of the most sensitive, vain people I've ever met in my life. Any walk of life, any profession. David does not care who does not like him. It's something I think our show has desperately needed for a long time. Too much of it yesterday. Way too fucking much of it.
Dial it back.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution.
Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the.
I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, not so tough, but man's keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
This is a troubling time in Florida for a number of different reasons and a scary time in Florida. But before we get to what is approaching this way in Florida, which seems a bit cataclysmic, okay? When you're talking about 12 to 15 feet of storm surge, you're talking about things that's ocean is going to swallow land and homes in a way that I don't know that we've necessarily even seen in the modern times around here. And so I'm legitimately scared for what it is that's happening in Florida. But as a palate cleanser, let me just go to some John Gruden video to get the mood around here a little lighter after David Samson created some tension around here yesterday that has some people upset who work for our show, has some people upset who listen to our show. And let me preface everything I'm about to show you with John Gruden with he is guilty of some things that make it hard to generally laugh at him unless he's making funny football videos where he's sweaty and way too passionate about football. And this is the way John Gruden's going to try and get back in the game after being somebody who was the highest paid voice at ESPN when talking about football.
We're going to get to that in a second, but if I can, Dan, if I can start somewhere else, because I noticed something today when I drove in. You're driving a Jeep. You don't give off Jeep, and I just think that needs to be the room was talking. Whose Jeep is that? It's Dan's, and the room was just like Dan Jeep. It's just they weren't doing that connection.
Greg and I had a laugh. I said if I pulled up at a stoplight and I looked over and you were driving a Jeep, that I would laugh at you. Same with a flatbed truck, and I would laugh at David Samson as well. There is a certain kind of person who should be in a truck, who should be driving a Jeep. You guys are not the guys.
Right. No, that's for sure. Dan driving a Jeep, I mean, it's like picturing Dan in the cockpit of an 18-wheeler, doing long-distance deliveries. I just don't see it.
All right. I just need to stop you for just a second. I don't know if Jessica saw this when she walked in, but Greg Cody was prancing around here as he judges me for driving in my wife's Jeep because I'm afraid of the flooding, right? My car will get stuck in water, and so I needed to come in a car that's not going to get stuck in water.
Smart.
Greg Cody's judging me while saying to me, I'm not kidding, hey, Dan, how do these skinny jeans look? They're wildly uncomfortable.
Wait, let me see.
My wife got them for me a while ago, and I'm wearing them for the first time, and they are tight in the crotch area. And
Lift up your shirt.
And so he is.
They look good, Greg. They're not that skinny looking. I mean, they're certainly not like tight, right?
Yeah, they feel tight. That's the thing. I don't really care how they look as much as I don't like the tightness on my legs. Plus, it's just I feel like I'm 3 generations behind the time. I feel like I'm in Liverpool in 1963.
Wait, okay, now I need to see the cut. So I need to, if you could lift your leg perhaps to my eye level. Are they like a straight? Okay.
Straight cut?
Honestly, Greg, it's a good look for you. It is slightly, like we've slightly moved past that style for men's jeans, slightly.
Yeah.
The baggier style is now in. But I think we're going to swing back around in 2025. So you're right on target there.
I'm glad that Jeep belongs to your wife because I was worried for a second that you had like a hurricane car that you like keep just for when there's hurricanes.
Like a Batmobile?
Oh, to be a fly on the wall with Dan and Adam McKay this week. I mean,
let's be very clear. Dan has a very fancy car, and those tend to drive low to the ground.
Yeah.
So he's borrowing a second fancy car, which is much higher. Dan, do you do the Jeep wave with other Jeeps?
I don't. I'm not a Jeep
you have
person,
to.
but I also don't understand making fun of somebody for being. I don't know what a Jeep person is or isn't.
Outdoorsman,
Yeah,
rugged, a rugged individualist.
nailed it. Yeah, Kim Bocamper.
Yeah.
Were you smoking a cigarette?
In my wife's car? Are you kidding me? Like, that is not allowed. No.
As a Jeep person.
I miss my cigars.
He's right, though. Jeep people do give off cigarettes.
Yep.
Put it on the
Really?
poll, please, at Le
Are
Batard
we
Show.
talking Wranglers?
Yep.
Do Jeep people give off cigarettes? Because I think you guys are doing more Hummer than Jeep. Like, what are you guys
I
doing
don't
with?
know. I mean, Grand Cherokee people don't smoke cigarettes. Right.
I don't know what you guys are doing with the Jeep. Like, I'm not four-wheeling, if that's what you're asking.
you have to.
I'm not going out in the Everglades and really like
Off-roading?
kicking,
Oh, what a visual.
kicking up mud. But I also don't know what it is that you think is weird about me driving a Jeep.
I can't stand the fact that you do videos while driving the Jeep, especially your wife's car. It's irresponsible no matter how high it is. Are you at stoplights
I
when
was
you do that?
promoting your show. I was promoting nothing personal by breaking the law.
Yeah.
I don't
What about
need
the Greg
favors
Cody
like that.
show?
It's fair. It's a fair question. I mean,
David Samson and the chemistry of our show and people talking over each other. This was something that happened yesterday.
Sure.
You got to keep your eyes on the other room on when it is that people are talking there,
Yeah.
so that you're doing the show with them
Sure.
instead of over them.
Yeah, appreciate that on-air instruction.
Well, I'd appreciate you do your job slightly better so that we don't have chemistry problems like we did yesterday, because the audience turned on us yesterday.
Yeah.
Like they were really mad at everything that happened around here yesterday because David Samson was poo-pooing everything in sports that was exciting over the weekend.
It is, of course, October.
Yeah, that's what you mentioned again and again. But let's get to this John Gruden video here finally, and let's hope nobody noticed that we were filibustering because all the video went down as we started the show. Let's check in with wait a minute. His hairline makes it so that he looks not like John Gruden. He looks a little bit different than John Gruden while wearing a Chucky T-shirt. Let's look at this for a second because he looks a bit like Freddy Krueger here.
You know, when I was calling plays, I just loved it when our quarterback shredded the defense. I mean, just ripped them. That's what has me feeling really nicey. Like watching Jared Goff go 18 for 18, 292 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Got me feeling nicey.
I couldn't do that pregame warm-up. Jaden Daniels, just a rookie, 26 out of 30, 87%, 231 yards. He rushes for 47. He's doing everything. Shredded, baby. C.J. Stroud, 345 yards, brings the Texans back, wins it at the buzzer. Shred him, Stroud. Baker Mayfield, coming off a tough loss, 345 yards in the hot, humid Tampa Bay weather. Heat him up, Mayfield. Keep shredding them, baby. Sam Darnold. Who'd have thought the Vikings would be 4-0? 275 yards, 3 touchdowns. Go to Lambeau Field and win again, baby. Keep it rolling, Sam. Shred him.
Holy shit, man.
Feels like he's auditioning for Outkick.
This is how you do football from the fringes of disgrace.
I saw a bunch of people posting this video yesterday, and I scrolled past it every time because I was like, surely there's nothing that I need to see in this. And now that I've seen it, I understand why a lot of people are sharing.
This is how the comeback has to happen. Like this is how he's going to orchestrate his efforts to make a comeback that I don't think it's possible to make.
He's unhireable now for a front office. You don't come back from that. He may be auditioning for a media job, as best as I could tell, but there's no way that a front office, you can't have him as your head.
No, but
because of the TikTok. Yeah.
He's a lunatic.
He's unemployable in general, but if you're going to try and find employment of any kind, this is a way to do it. Just be someone who can be viral in his, what is he? He's in his 70s now, or is he in his 60s? How old is he?
Really?
I don't think
I don't
he's
know.
70.
How old is he?
I'm checking it out right now. I think he's in his 60s, maybe.
61.
So if he's going to get back into the game, the way that you've got to do it is you've got to appeal to the younger demo who doesn't care about what your scandalous past is, as long as you're just doing stuff like that to music.
I'm just like imagining who's the owner that's like, I need that guy. I need that guy. That's the intensity
I wasn't
need.
thinking football job. Or I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking a professional coaching job, which might be what he wants. I was thinking media job.
But there has to be an owner, to Chris's point, that's thinking to themselves, how can I spin this and bring Gruden back?
I was being sarcastic. I feel like every owner looks at that and be like, I don't want that guy within 100 feet of my.
Right. He's 100% auditioning for some sort of a low-end media job. I don't think it'll be a huge company. Certainly won't be Meadowlark or ESPN or anything like that. But I think he could eventually get back in. But watching that reminded me, I liked him more when he was canceled. And I'll be honest with you, it reminded me how little I missed John Gruden. I don't feel like I need that. Like, what's he doing? You know, with the Chucky face and everything. It's just
right.
No.
Oh God, I think Billy just booked him for God Bless Football.
He's wildly entertaining. What do you mean? You didn't think that was better than what Rex Ryan is giving you on Monday mornings?
I don't need that. No, I don't.
So who's doing it in a way right now that you do need?
I don't need to be entertained in that way. Like, I would rather have serious football analysis. I don't need him reading stats of 5 different quarterbacks and going, shred them. You know, that's not bringing anything to a table.
That was my favorite part.
It's bringing a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Who's doing it in a way that you need? Give me the media members. I would like to know. Greg Cody is tuning in to get football acumen delivered in an entertaining fashion from whom?
I like I like Diana Rossini. I like Mina Kimes. I like people who can be amusing but mostly informative. I just don't need that kind of a cartoon presentation of a guy screaming, shred 'em. I just don't need that. That's just me. Maybe some people love that, and I have no animus against John Gruden. If he can get back, reinvent himself, and get back into the media on some level, more power to him.
Watching your panic, Greg, made me smile. Did you look at the name on our sheet to come up with Diana Rossini, or was that in your head?
That was in my head.
It's just a coincidence.
It says Diana Rossini right in front of
I
you.
know,
It's
so?
the piece of paper that's in front of you.
Luckily, it was there.
I don't know who you would have said if not. You were
Well,
Steve
Mina
Carell's.
Kimes is not on a piece of paper.
You
I
were
said her name.
Steve Carell's character in Anchorman. You just saw a lamp and said lamp. Like, you just saw her name on that sheet. You didn't have anybody you were going to.
Okay, so Diana Rossini, who's on this show every Tuesday when I'm in talking about NFL football, you think I needed a sheet of paper to remind me that Diana Rossini has good intel in a brand new podcast, which is great. It's no Greg Cody Show podcast, but it's really good. Scoop City is
You're
called.
still reading from the paper.
Well, because I'd forgotten the name of the podcast, Scoop City.
I'm wondering if my dad could pull off the John Gruden stuff. Like, if I give you a bed of music right now, can you start just breaking down NFL quarterbacks the way he did?
I would, if I were being a cartoon, okay, if I were being a caricature, I would do exactly what he's doing, which is just simply reading stats. Baker Mayfield tearing up Tampa Bay, 38 for 45. Shred 'em! And then I'd have to...
Oh, I love it. Keep going.
That's pretty good.
Oh, the clicks you would get.
Pretty good.
You know, Kirk Cousins of Atlanta.
Find your camera.
Kirk Cousins of Atlanta, 38 for 49 for 308 yards. Shred 'em!
Right. You should get the stats right, though. You should get
who cares? I mean,
509 yards.
The
It's
face
good.
is the most important.
You know what? Let's start over.
the shred 'em.
Let's see if Greg. Your face is very good.
Yeah.
Do you want to get some stats together to see if we can do this
I
accurately?
feel like if
instead
I
of-
make up stats, they're better than the real thing.
He was only 200 yards short on Kirk Cousins. I
They're
mean,
not better than the real thing because you were 200 yards short
Right.
on how Kirk Cousins shredded them.
Right.
Like, if you'd gone 700 yards, that would have been a good way to be
Right.
200 off.
That's
but,
fair.
But making him less good than he was, less of a shredder, makes
Yeah.
it less good than it could have been.
Right, that's fair.
Let's watch the Gruden video one more time just to get the wheels turning for Greg Cody.
All right,
okay?
and Greg, please feel free in the moment to look up some stats that you want to use on whoever you want to be your weekly shredders. They can
Okay.
be anybody. They don't have to be quarterbacks. Just you will have all the time that Gruden is working here to come up with whatever your impersonation is as your son helps you with the music. Let's check in again. You're with me. You guys are with me on the way that Gruden's hairline is working here makes him look not like the John Gruden you remember, and also more like Freddy Krueger than John Gruden? Do I have this wrong? Because he looks like somebody I can't place. He doesn't look like John Gruden. Go ahead.
You know, when I was calling plays, I just loved it when our quarterback shredded the defense. I mean, just ripped them. That's what has me feeling really nicey. Like watching Jared Goff go 18 for 18, 292 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Got me feeling icy.
I couldn't do that pregame warm-up. Jaden Daniels, just a rookie, 26 out of 30, 87%, 231 yards. He rushes for 47. He's doing everything. Shredded, baby. C.J. Stroud, 345 yards, brings the Texans back, wins it at the buzzer. Shred him, Stroud. Baker Mayfield, coming off a tough loss, 345 yards in the hot, humid Tampa Bay weather. Heat him up, Mayfield. Keep shredding them, baby. Sam Darnold. Who'd have thought the Vikings would be 4-0? 275 yards, 3 touchdowns. Go to Lambeau Field and win again, baby. Keep it rolling, Sam. Shred 'em.
Greg, I want to understand if what just happened is what I think just happened, which is the shipping container rose up to try and help you here during that segment by saying, and I can hear some of what they were saying, hey, write some phrases down. Do you want to look up some quarterbacks? He shook everyone off like he's Garrett Cole. Like he is someone who throws 100 miles an hour, and he's got this down. He's Mutombo. He's ready to do this. He doesn't need any production help. He's ready to go. Let's go. Play the music. Greg Cody does not need any production assistance.
You know what gets me feeling it? Watching Josh Allen go 9 for 30 for 131 yards and a huge monumental loss. That's what gets me feeling it. Shred it! Who?
So one, that's all you had planned.
So you had one plan.
That was really good.
Yeah, he nailed it.
Those are being haters. Look at he's got the face down. He looks exactly like him.
But you didn't need any
They
production.
are, and it was funny too because he gave a bad stat line.
Right,
I gave a bad stat line, exactly. I mean,
you guys
that's
don't
the beauty of it.
recognize and appreciate a true artiste in his prime.
It's a good bit. Maybe have a couple of them to go to.
5 would have worked.
Bad quarterbacks.
Yes, if you have one good one, 5 would be better.
One works. One works.
I know. Restraint and moderation are always
Yes.
those are key principles that Greg Cody has always lived
they
by.
are.
You have to leave people wanting more, not
you.
saying that was dragged out way too long.
Just gets me. You know, I need one example. I'm the anti-Gruden. He's doing the predictable stuff, lauding the quarterbacks who had good games. I'm lauding the so-called best quarterback in the league, or second best, who had an epic bad game. In the era of short passes and guys in the NFL are actually going 38 for 46 and stuff like that, the best quarterback in the league is 9 for 30. That's almost unheard of. Check that out. Who?
Oh, wow.
Greg, do you know where your camera is?
No.
Can we teach him?
He's
or
looking
not?
all over the place. He doesn't know what camera to
He
look
doesn't
at.
need to know that.
The Gruden face, though, slaps.
I'm with you. He does the Gruden face better than Gruden.
But you can't go Josh Allen and then say shred it because he didn't shred anything. You have to come up with a different closeout line.
Well,
you know?
the game is shredding Josh Allen.
That was the
Good
joke
pivot, yeah.
that he was doing. I would have liked, hey, did you see that Andy Dalton was 7 for 8 for 15 yards at the 2-minute warning yesterday? Shred him. Like, I would have liked 5 or 6 of those stats and jokes. But Greg waved us off 4 seconds into what was a 50-second bit because he had his joke, and he didn't need any more jokes.
Thank you.
He had the one.
Yes, thank you.
He's also improvising here, Dan. I mean, I commend Greg.
Bravo.
10 out of 10 for effort.
you.
10 out of 10 for
Effort?
substance. 10 out of 10 for being you, Greg.
I tell you, it just gets me. I wish more people on this show did.
Billy's seat is empty. Somebody's got to do it today. It's kind of the formula for everything that we do around
It's
here.
not formulaic. I think it was genuine.
It was. What are you talking about,
Thank you.
Dan?
I thought for sure when Dan asked you, who do you want your football knowledge from, you would say Billy Gill, since he always supports you.
Yeah.
You know, right?
I fed him
that.
that-
Been written down, I would have probably said it.
I fed him that line, too. He ignored that one as well.
Well, you're feeding me too many lines. I'm getting indigestion from all you're feeding me.
You're full?
Look at you at Tums.
Seriously. I mean, yakety yak in my ear here. Trying to concentrate and do a job. You know, it's ridiculous.
So yesterday on the show, David Samson got a poor reaction. And David, how did you react to that reaction? You don't tend to care very much when people are agitated by you. It's a great strength of yours.
I was working on today's show. The show goes on. I don't react. You are the king of the Twitter reaction. When someone tweets something good or someone tweets something bad, you assume that is how everyone is viewing it in that prism. I don't get caught like that, only because it's been so many years of both negative and some positive press. I just don't pay attention to any of it.
I understand, except it was happening inside of our building and in the shipping container. It was not Twitter I was reacting to. It was our employees talking behind hidden hands about you while I was doing the show in a way that distracted me.
That was unacceptable, and it was disappointing because we're supposed to be on a team, and I've never felt less a part of a team than I did yesterday.
Wow. How about that?
Wait, what are we talking about?
Yesterday.
Lewis?
We're talking about, well, that was another room. That wasn't even this room. That was the other room that was objecting in general to what it is that David Samson was doing around here. A very polarizing figure.
Well, can I ask for a quick primer on what it is that he said that's so controversial? Because I'll be honest with you, super busy yesterday, didn't get a chance to listen to the show. I apologize. And maybe other listeners aren't quite sure what the controversy was surrounding Samson over there. So can you brief me?
We were talking about the University of Miami comeback for a long time in the local hour, and he objected to us talking about it that long and said it's just a game in October. It's not a championship game. And he did that a few different times when we were talking about Alabama Vanderbilt and some of the things that happened over the course of the weekend that if you're a sports fan are things one would get excited about. And so people objected to his objections, I would say. Now, in-house, I don't know. I believe that what was relayed to me, I don't know how accurate this was, but when Jeremy and Jessica were in a corner covering their mouths talking to each other, and I asked them, what are you guys talking about? They said that Lewis in the video room said of Samson, this guy bleeping sucks. I believe I'm quoting that correctly.
Yeah, SpongeBob reference, but yes, that's accurate.
The cover-up is always worse than the crime. Because Lewis was so quick to tell me, and so were you guys, that it was SpongeBob. That seems not worthy of covering your mouth over.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks! That's the reference.
Okay. I side with Samson. I disagree with him. I think some of these results we saw, whether it's UM coming from 25 down to win at Cal or Alabama losing, I think it was a fantastic weekend for sports. But if somebody wants to have an alternate opinion and note that it's early in the season and Alabama's still going to be in the playoffs and still has a chance to win the championship, there's a point to be made there, too.
I think David was okay with the topics. I think he was saying they were going on too long. Is that accurate?
It seemed insufferable to me to go 53 minutes on a topic, and I'm just sensitive to it when it comes to nothing personal, where you're going, you have to get to other topics. There's so much to get to. We have 53 pages of notes we get each day, and we stayed on one thing for so long that it made me insane.
But no one knows the audience better than Dan, and if he thinks we should stay with something for 53 minutes, I give him the benefit of the doubt, right? It's his show.
It is his show, Stu.
Yeah.
And that doesn't stop you from behaving the way you behave, though.
Well, I have to do that, I mean.
Okay.
But when I do it, it's fun and funny. I mean, no one's sitting there going, hey, talking with things over their mouth so you can't hear them. No one's criticizing me. They love me. I mean, that's the way it is.
It is true. They do love Stugotz, as was proven yet again in Chicago. God bless football, ransacked Chicago. What stories do you come back with as you, Billy and Tony? Everyone, the sponsor, DraftKings, the bar, everyone was thrilled that you got your hands on people. I was told that this set a record in the podcast sphere for fans giving you actual weed.
Oh, yeah. Weed Street, when in Rome, Dan. It was a great time in Chicago. Joe's on weed. Smirnoff, thank you to them for sponsoring the entire event. I have seen recently, when we do these events, a Billy Gill I have never seen. That was the highlight for me. Tony was great. He was confident. He's always great. He's always confident. But Billy Gill has grew up with this show. And to see Billy just, parading around the stage and entertaining 1,000 people in Chicago was a delight for me to see. And thank you to all the people who came out, Dan. I am telling you, you need to come to one of these because people line up and they're handing me letters thanking us for getting them through some of the most difficult times in their lives. And it was really flattering. We had a blast. It was great to see Billy in that element. So
I do come to those. We do Moss events. And
I want you to come to one that's outside of South Florida, travel this great country of ours, okay? And let's go talk to some of the fans who appreciate what you have done for them for 20 years.
You guys, and I do value our fans, but the last time we did that in Vegas, I spent 6 hours after our show shaking the hands of those people because they're our customers and because I appreciate how I can't tell you. David and I were just talking about this on Nothing Personal, because I find hugely interesting what the political candidates are doing and the spots that they are choosing to do their interviews on All the Smoke, on Call Her Daddy. They're going to places you wouldn't normally associate with political candidates because they're trying to get at new media and new audiences and new demographics. And our audience, as shown by Smirnoff and DraftKings, is a hugely valuable audience to people. And so I do value what it is that you are doing when you mingle with thousands of people who are in Chicago, not to see football, but to see God bless football. Because what happened, Jeremy? You're counting the number of people, and it doesn't look like thousands of people.
Well, no, it couldn't be thousands because we sold 1,000 tickets, and so
exactly 1,000.
It was sold out. Yeah, that room was sold out. The restaurant was happy. Smirnoff was happy. DraftKings was happy, and me, Billy, and Tony were happy. Tony did a tremendous job. He really did. There were times where, I kind of phased out because I'm watching the games and I have a big bet and I wasn't paying attention because that's what I tend to do. And Tony held it down for me because every time a ball was snapped, I would win or lose money. So,
who announced your attendance? Samson?
Yes.
Very nice.
So how many?
Only 5 paid.
How many do you guys have there? What do you guys have? What do you guys have as a number as you question the audience at God Bless Football in Chicago?
It looks to me like a large restaurant area completely full. Like, you said you started with thousands and it went to 1,000 and we're making our way down.
I'm the one who brought it down, by the way.
It looked completely full, the place. I will say that.
2 in a queue.
Huh.
I think we can all agree on 1,000 people.
Louis, I just texted you a photo of Tony that proves what Stugotz is saying, that in general, Tony is always confident, probably unreasonably confident, because I want to put that photo up that I just sent you, Louis, in a second so that you guys can tell me what you think of this as a look for Tony, because what he did, I thought, was aggressively Tony. But Greg, before we do that, I want to play for you some sound of proof that we believe that we have of you discovering that Diana Rossini was on the show today when you were looking for all the people in media whose work that you enjoy.
Okay.
When you looked down at a sheet of paper that had the name Diana Rossini in front of you.
I like Diana Rossini.
That is investigative.
I can hear you
proof.
looking.
Look, just again, in case you want some more proof that you didn't actually have a name at the tip of your tongue.
I like Diana Rossini. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm going to confess something, and whether you whether you believe me or not, I don't give a shit. Okay,
like it.
Sometimes I think, is it Diane or is it Diana?
Come on.
No, that's the God's truth. Okay, I don't want to disrespect anyone by misstating their first name, and it is Diana, but occasionally I think Diane first. So yes, I checked the sheet. I'm sorry, what a felony I committed! Oh my God!
What if the sheet wasn't there though?
I like Diana Rossini. Yeah, if the sheet wasn't there, I'd have probably said I like Rossini and Kimes. Yeah, they're fine.
Diana's in 40 font in front of you, Greg. It's 40 font.
Is it exactly 40?
It's big. I can see it from over here, and I'm not wearing my glasses.
I feel like it's more like 24 fonts.
It's pretty big. I can't read
24.
any of the other words on that sheet of paper other than Diana Rossini. They're the only words I can see from over here.
Plus it's underlined. It should be italicized. I think that would really make it jump.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, she's great.
So the one person in media whose work you admire is not a name that you actually know off the top of your head. You have to check a piece of paper to make sure you have the name right.
Well, I mentioned Mina Kimes as well.
Right.
Because they're in sharp contrast to the ghosts of John Gruden trying to resurrect himself. They give serious information, but they do it in an entertaining way. They're not clowning. They're not just making up stuff and, making faces and everything. So
I want to get to Greg Cody as the longtime columnist for the Miami Herald. I want to get to his thoughts on the Dolphin victory this weekend. But before I do that, because we're going to probably have skeletal crews the next couple of days, and because Genuine horror is coming to Florida in the shape of this hurricane that, again, I will tell you that 12 to 15 foot storm surge is just not something I have seen in modern times. And John Morales, the longtime meteorologist, because he knows what it is that we've done to the earth, because he knows how compromised we are by the corruption of the oil companies, John Morales is going to be on with us later. But he just broke down while he is watching what is moving toward Tampa and is going to cause billions of dollars in damage, and everyone better get out of there, because anyone who doesn't get out of there is simply going to die, because the evacuation of this area is something that people must adhere to. So anyone listening to me who might not know how serious something is that's coming to Tampa Bay, you must know that this is the worst kind of life-threatening that a natural disaster can be. And here's John Morales, longtime meteorologist, looking at what's in front of him and not able to keep the emotion out of, oh my God, what is coming to the Tampa Bay area.
It's just an incredible, incredible, incredible hurricane. It has dropped It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours. I apologize. This is just horrific. The seas are just so incredibly, incredibly hot. Record hot, as you might imagine. You know what's driving that. I don't need to tell you. Global warming, climate change, leading to this and becoming an increasing threat.
So, Stugotz, I know that you and others around here make fun of me and Adam McKay. Adam McKay seems like he's gone off the deep end to people. He used his art to say, hey, don't look up. Money has compromised everything. The world is ending. That's the movie he tried to make. And since then, he's just kind of left the disintegrating Hollywood, because Hollywood no longer even exists. It's like 3 companies that are going to gobble up all of Hollywood with their hedge funds. And he's working on just screaming at people, hey, if we don't reverse this now, this is already the new normal. And when this comes to a city that is near you, you're going to lose a lot of things that you love. So here is the mayor of Tampa warning everybody about what's coming this way, because it's a new normal. And the forecasters, when he cries, Stugotz, on the air there, it's because he knows that the way that the pressure dropping on that is happening is worse than anything forecasters have ever imagined or seen, and they don't know what to do with what's coming, because the airplanes that are flying into this are coming back with information that is more horrifying than anything that climate scientists have ever seen.
One message to Tampa residents tonight.
The number one message, as it has been for several days now, is that you need to prepare. Do whatever you need to do, and then get out of the evacuation zones, which now are evacuation zone A and B. And as we all have heard so many times now, you hide from the wind and run from the water. And we are talking about right now the possibility of a direct hit with 10 to 12 foot tidal surge.
What would you say to people tonight who are saying, you know what, I'm going to ride this out, I've ridden others out? What would you say to people who aren't heeding those evacuation orders?
Well, I can tell you right now that they may have done that in others. There's never been one like this. And this, Helene was a wake-up call. This is literally catastrophic. And I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
Wow. I mean, that is an incredibly blunt message.
That's how she has to say it, because they're asking people to evacuate. And I know people know what 12 to 15 feet is, but it's the ocean, 2 Shaqs of ocean, 2 Shaquille O'Neals of ocean, just coming and grabbing up the first floor of wherever it is that you live. If you live on the second floor, you may be okay, but it's going to grab everything that's on the first floor.
Morales gets emotional because he knows what's going to happen to that area. The mayor has to be that blunt. To your point, you're right. You have to be that blunt, because in Florida, it's hard to get consensus when everyone believes what the weather people are telling them, because we've been through so many storms. The mayor was uncommonly blunt there. because people need to leave. You need to leave. This storm, you need to get out of town. Go find somewhere with your family. Be safe, have air conditioning, have electricity, see what happens. But to her point, if you stay, she's telling you, you're going to die. And she has to say that. Otherwise, people will stay.
And Category 5 is the worst that a hurricane gets. You can envision a day when they're going to need another number, a Category 6, because the worst of the hurricanes is only going to get worse over time. The way this climate
The
thing
way
is going.
this has jumped over the last 5 days, because I've been watching it, it was at 90, at 90, at 90, and then it's 175. What I'm telling you is that even the experts don't understand how fast these things are happening.
When I say something like this yesterday, you want to know what bothers me? I say the same thing. You have to get out. And I get criticized by Izzy on one side, by Jessica, by you all, by everybody saying that I'm an unfeeling prick. And I just don't follow it exactly because we just heard the mayor say it. So what exactly are we saying that, no, you can't evacuate, we're trying to protect our home that is our home? Or are we saying you have to evacuate or else you're going to die? Which one is it?
No, no one called you that, but you did say you don't feel bad for people that die because they don't evacuate.
And called them
You're
stupid.
sort of changing what happened.
You said it's not.
a little bit.
You don't excuse anyone who dies because they did not evacuate.
I don't excuse people who die hang gliding.
Okay.
I mean, he's consistent.
Okay. All right. Congratulations on being an unfeeling prick consistently. We have a song to play for you in a moment because the University of Miami's comeback victory that David Samson was not impressed by is now producing multiple songs around here. We have a top 5 list of ways you could die that David Samson would not excuse or feel any sympathy for that we're going to get to in a second. But before I do that, can I just put up a photo real quick of Tony doing, I don't know whether he was doing MMA stuff this weekend or whether he was doing post-football stuff. But what are we now calling the mechanic's undershirt that he is wearing there so that I can tell the audio audience what kind of shirt that is without calling it what it used to be called, which I assume is not something that you can say anymore. Mechanic's undershirt? What kind of shirt is that he's wearing there?
A tank top undershirt.
Okay.
Yep.
Tank top undershirt. He's trying to be sensual there, correct? Because that is dressed down in a way I've never seen a media member dress down when representing himself publicly. Have you guys seen that before?
I have.
Pat McAfee did that for a long time. Finally, he's gotten away from it, thank God.
Well, but tank tops, he's doing tank tops that are worn on the outside. What he's doing is the Cuban Hispanic. This is an undershirt. This is the equivalent of male Latin pajamas, basically. This is not a shirt you wear as a tank top to exercise. This is an undershirt. I've got this correct, right? Or has fashion moved away from me?
Once again, though, he pulls it off, though. It's annoying.
Does he?
I think he does.
He does. Yeah. I pull it off.
Greg's right. I mean, McAfee does have this, but if Tony's wearing like a large belt, then he's copying McAfee because it is a different color undershirt.
If he starts working the crowd in his studio.
The difference in our confidence levels is that I'll wear that tank top underneath an open shirt and still feel self-conscious about the fact that I'm wearing that.
My father, the reason I legitimately associate that with another time in Hispanic fatherhood, because that is exactly how my father always wandered around the house wearing that and his underwear. Like that's what my father had underneath his clothes, not as clothes.
He would never dare walk outside just wearing that.
He would not be allowed outside because that is private, intimate time. He certainly wouldn't do a national broadcast, representing himself as a media member in, a Latin undershirt.
I want to address Tony and all men who would wear that shirt in public. Don't do it. Okay? If you're wandering around the house, that's fine. If it's 85 degrees and you're mowing your lawn out front, maybe you wear that. I don't want to see it in a restaurant. It's unprofessional to wear it in a work setting. The last thing I want to see is another guy's armpits when he's ordering food in a restaurant. And yet you see that sometimes. Have a little decorum. I'm not saying you got to dress up. You don't have to wear a necktie or a jacket to do what Tony's doing right there. But don't wear a tank top. It's ridiculous. Am I wrong? And I'm not singling out Tony. I'm talking about.
Seems like you are.
I see guys. Seriously, I see guys walking into restaurants dressed like that.
Shred 'em! I was actually watching the local news last night, Greg, because I was watching your buddy Phil Farrow do the weather report.
Love
Share
Phil.
Bear, and a story came on about 2 women that were kicked off a Spirit Airlines flight for wearing crop tops. And the flight attendants told them that their shirts were too short and were showing too much midriff, I guess. So they got kicked off their flight, and they were on the local news talking about it. And Spirit Airlines hasn't really made it up to them yet. So curious to see what happens there, but kind of ridiculous.
That's absurd. That's 1920s America, where a woman couldn't wear a bathing suit that was higher than 5 inches off the knee. I mean, what century is this that you're kicking women off an airline for wearing a crop top? And you could argue that maybe that's the female equivalent of that. I say no. Shred 'em!
You did contradict yourself. You just told Tony.
really did,
told
exactly.
Tony how to dress.
Completely flipped it.
Right. How to dress professionally.
Right.
Men, we can tell men how to dress, but not women.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I'm not the arbiter of taste. I'm the arbiter of my own opinion.
Yep.
And in my opinion, you don't show up in a professional setting dressed like that, and unless maybe you're a WWE wrestler and you want to, you want to have a persona as Tank Top Man or something like that.
Shred 'em!
But
Tank Top Tony.
Just to be
Yes.
clear, you would be okay with him wearing that on a flight.
I would not.
Oh.
Shred 'em!
No. I would not. You don't wear a tank top on a flight. No. What? You don't do that. Because I'm sitting next to you. I don't want to see your armpit. I just don't. Excuse me, could I have another drink? And then what am I looking at here? Come on.
Shred 'em!
Ridiculous.
How do you feel about flip-flops?
They're fine.
Who raises their hand on an airplane asking for drinks?
I don't know.
No one.
That kind of thing.
You're wearing skinny jeans.
Yeah, but against my will. I didn't realize they were skinny jeans until I tried them on.
Right.
The first thing I thought, have I gained 40 pounds in the last week? Have my legs gotten fat? And then I look at the tag, and it actually says skinny jeans on it. I don't know what happened there. I didn't buy them.
Before we get to David Samson's top 5 ways you could die that he would have no sympathy for, I want to play totally reasonable, rational Alabama callers to the Paul Feinbaum show. Alabama callers reacting to Nick Saban leaving, and then you lose to Vanderbilt. I'm sure they're totally reasonable about this.
They got what they deserve. If the coach does not reprimand or sit number 13, he's got bigger fish to fry.
At least I didn't play like Malachi Moore and act like a little brat. Hey, man, get your call up, lad. We don't want to hear none of that crying. We don't want to hear nothing fire the ball. We won't hear nothing about the defense. It's the players. You tell them to run and play football and quit counting money.
It's the game. We lost it. 40 years down. That would be the point. But Georgia fans ain't got nothing to holler about. Hell, if Vanderbilt beat us, then we beat Georgia. So, but I heard what you said to Stephen A. Smith. I sure did, Paul Feinbaum. And every damn chance you get, you take the cheapest shot. The man talk, let him talk. If you don't want him on a damn show, don't get him on there.
Isn't it amazing when the Urban Meyers and the Harsons and the DeBoers and all these other guys come in from around the country, they just don't get Southeastern football. They don't understand the religion, Paul. They don't understand the dedication. They don't understand the terminology. They don't understand the opponents.
When's the last time Saban lost to Vanderbilt? When was that? How about never? Damn. Take it like a man. You got your butt whooped. Y'all keep talking about DeBoer. Well, hey, what about our defensive coordinator here?
All I can tell you is, drink, you need to wake up and smell the coffee. I really don't have anything else to add today. It was bad news, quite frankly. Goodbye.
Hey, a lot of Bama fans are saying today was Georgia's daddy. And if their daddy doesn't Kellen DeBoer was Georgia's stepdaddy. So guess what? Vandy is the milkman. So he came and whooped that tail, he handled his business, and he went out his way and took that field goal down to the river. Go Tigers, Paul. Y'all have a great day.
Paul, I'm in sports hell, brother. I'm in sports hell. I never thought I would utter these words. Vandy is my daddy. Can you believe that? Do you hear that, Coach DeBoer? That don't piss you off, dude. It pisses me off. It pisses me off, Coach DeBoer. Alabama don't lose to Vandy. We don't lose to Vandy.
Those accents seem like Hank Azaria doing voices. How you would impersonate the Deep South getting mad at Alabama losing a football game. Can you guys tell me whether you understand or embrace the idea that someone who is hostile and angry tells you to wake up and smell the coffee? Seriously, I'm serious about the idea of why are you aggressively telling me to smell the coffee? Does this seem to you like something that would work by way of insult?
Well, it further wakes you up. You wake up, then you have to smell the coffee, then you really feel alive, Dad,
Correct.
I would give anything to smell the coffee.
He lost his sense of taste and smell after getting the coronavirus, so he can't smell much of anything.
Luckily for David, I've been farting in here all day.
Can you get me some more of that last caller legend, the last caller to Paul Feinbaum show?
Let me say this to all Alabama fans, because I've caught some flight today, and I can take it. That's why they call me the legend. I can take it. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. I love the kitchen. So let's get that right. I'll ride and die with the Crimson Tide. I don't care to go back and get Mike Shula the coach. I'm going to be with Alabama every friggin' game. But that don't mean I can't be pissed at what I seen Saturday on the field. Bill Curry didn't lose to Vandy. Mike DeBose didn't lose to Vandy. Mike Shula didn't lose to Vandy. 40 years. You've been here 4 weeks and you already lost to Vandy. Let me tell you how pissed I am, Paul. Can I tell you, brother?
Wish you would. Go right ahead.
My neighbor gave me a picture of Coach DeBoer last Thursday, a signed picture, an 8x12 in a frame, and I put it in the fire pit Saturday night at midnight and set a match to it.
You burned it.
I've had people tell me today, well, Coach Saban lost his first-year legend. I said, man, don't even come at me with that bull crap, because that's a bunch of baloney. John Parker Wilson was the quarterback for Nick Saban's first year. You got the Heisman Trophy frontrunner, Lynn Swann, out there at wide receiver, and you get beat by Vandy. It's pathetic, dude. It's pathetic. You better wake the hell up and realize where you at, because we don't play that down here, brother. You might get away with that in Washington, but down here in Alabama, we don't play that. We'll send a U-Haul to your ass if you lose to South Carolina. You better start worrying about last week's game and get your ass focused on the game coming up at Alabama. The honeymoon's over. Wake the hell up. You know what this is equivalent to?
What's that?
This is equivalent to coming home and finding your wife in bed with the neighbor. And I'll say this with this. Me and K-Dub both agree. You could never trust her again. You might stay with her for the kids' sake, but you could never trust the woman again. And the same thing's true with Coach DeBoer. You can win a natty. We can't trust your ass now. You don't lose to Vanderbilt. That's the ugliest little sister on the block. I ain't seen a cornerback blitz. I ain't seen a safety blitz. We just let this little guy, this little 5'8" Johnny Manziel, sit back in the pocket and make a fool out of Alabama. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Somebody get me Pete Golden on the phone. See if we can get Pete Golden's ass back down here. Because your ass sorry than Pete Golden's, dude. It is friggin' pathetic. Understand, Coach DeBoer. Wake the hell up. We don't lose to Vandy. Strike friggin' one. The honeymoon's over, and we need some damn marriage counseling. Legend has left the damn building.
A lot of wake the hell up there. Put it on the poll. Is Paul Feinbaum therapy for people who would never be caught in therapy? David, are you ready to do your top 5 list of ways people could die that you would have no sympathy for?
Yes, but did that not remind you of the oral history? And I know the second episode has come out, and I encourage everyone to listen to it if you are a fan or not even a fan, or you're new to the Dan Le Batard Show. But when you started, you and Stugotz, I thought you had callers just like that who were characters in your universe. Am I the only one? I couldn't understand what he was saying, but he was obviously, that was a plant as the show, which is how you started your show, no?
That's not a plant. No, those are the callers. To Paul Feinbaum's callers are all like that.
Mm-hmm.
That is what he takes all day, every day, and he's built an empire on
Our callers would mock his callers. I mean,
but at the beginning, most sports radio callers are something like that. They're just venting. A whole empire of media was built atop the rage of somebody who's lost a game they didn't expect to lose and needed to call somebody to talk about it with.
Is that where you developed your therapy couch? Because if that is a call that I keep thinking that's how you started. That's why we're all here. It's because of a call like that.
I remember Hank Goldberg in this market famously used to take calls like that.
Yes.
But then argue with the people who were calling him.
Yes, he would make them very entertaining.
Okay, so you guys are arguing or talking right now about the history of sports radio? Like, yes. That's they farm out to the audience calls
and engage with the caller.
And it's the lowest form of entertainment where you outsource to Hector on a mobile. Hey, will you do my job for me? And then you argue with the caller. Yes, that is the definition of sports radio. You guys
I
are
got a
just
top
learning about this
I mean, DeBoer beat Georgia.
But he lost to Vanderbilt.
last week. Last week, Alabama felt so much better than that, and it's just because it's Vanderbilt. If you lose the game 40-35 like that to anybody other than Vanderbilt, it would not be this reaction. It's because nobody respects Vanderbilt.
The honeymoon's over, and we need some damn marriage counseling.
David, do you have any OLI for your top 5 list of ways people can die that you would have no sympathy for?
This is me trying to improve myself. No, because there's only 5.
All right.
That's it.
Number 5.
Interesting.
Rowing across the ocean.
You deserve it. Yeah.
You deserve it. If you die, just don't do it.
Like to set a record or something?
No,
you're
no,
saying?
just doing it.
Okay, but for fun. Well, but for fun, or you're trying to set a record by,
You just want to be one of the people that rowed across the ocean.
What about a large
you know?
lake? What if I row across a large lake?
I would feel badly if you died.
Okay, good.
I would too.
Not rowing in general. You're just talking about a length that would be record breaking.
I'm talking about 15-foot swells. It's called the ocean.
Okay, it is called the
But
ocean.
what about Great Lakes?
Wouldn't feel badly.
Right. Any
Okay.
lake. So right.
That's a big lake.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
It's a Great Lake.
It's a great lake. There's only 5.
But what about like Okeechobee?
Isn't that our drinking water?
I don't know.
I'd
Is
rather
it?
you not row in that.
Okay.
Number 4.
Climbing a mountain without ropes like free solo.
That's right.
It is what it is. You're signing up for it.
Yeah.
What is the distinction you're making between that and you climbing Kilimanjaro?
The angle of Kilimanjaro, there's no place on Kilimanjaro where if I lose my footing, I will fall 10 stories to my death.
And the ropes.
And the ropes.
Yes.
And the ropes.
Right.
People do die climbing Kilimanjaro, do they not?
Yes, but that's more of an oxygen thing than oh my God, I just fell down 100 stories.
That's actually a good point because you have climbed Kilimanjaro. If you had died, would you want people to feel bad for you? Would you understand if we were like, well, he deserved that because he shouldn't have done it?
I would have wanted you to feel badly for me. Because not Everest. Now, Everest, if you die, I don't feel badly for you. That's an OLI, I guess.
Because
With
it's,
ropes?
Because it is an OLI. Because it's more dangerous. My father said this the other day for some reason. I mentioned on the show that he said out of nowhere that Sonny Bono died by skiing and going into a tree. And he looks at me and he says, you know what? I'll never die that way. That's the way I would never die. I would think a lot of people listening to this would say, you know how I'll never die? Climbing Kilimanjaro. And if David died that way, I might not feel bad for him because you know what you don't do? Risk the oxygen being lost as you climb Kilimanjaro.
But he's also doing it with ropes. So if it's faulty equipment, then you feel bad for David Samson. If he does it without ropes, then you don't
He's
feel
not
bad
doing
for
it
David.
with ropes.
Right.
This is not the kind of climbing of mountains that he's doing. He's just trekking in like hiking boots.
There's no chalk on my hands.
I got news for you. If I'm climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, I'm bringing a rope, just in case.
Yep.
Rope-a-dope.
Yep.
Number 3.
Driving without a seatbelt.
Oh, wow.
It's like, what if I just forgot?
Man.
Where'd that
I
come
don't.
feel
I always
badly
wear
for
it.
you.
What if the seatbelt just didn't work? What if you were driving to get the seatbelt repaired, and all of a sudden you got into a car
Oh,
accident?
wow.
How do you prove that exactly?
I mean,
You demand proof from the corpse.
loophole.
Number 2.
Skydiving.
I'm with him on this one.
Yeah, with
Sorry,
you. Yeah.
parachute didn't open. Uh-oh.
You're
What-
jumping out of a plane.
What if it was Tony when he went skydiving a couple years
I've
ago?
gone skydiving many
Okay.
times.
Yeah.
Did he skydive in a tank top, Tony?
Number 1. Good contribution.
Dying in a plane crash in a plane that you built in a box. There are people who build planes out of a box and then fly them.
You can't do
and
that.
Say, oh my God, I just died.
A plane in a box?
Yes.
Who flies a plane built in a box?
No, he's right about that, but the hurricane thing wasn't on this.
Because I'm beginning to maybe feel badly if anyone dies in a hurricane.
I have a nomination.
Good timing for that.
If you're walking along one of those long bridges that like bounces, that you're walking on it, give me an example of one of these. I don't know of an example. It's just you know what I'm talking about. It's like there's one piece of land and then one piece of land, and for some reason there's a really skinny bridge that like moves a lot while you're on it. If you die on one of those things, don't feel
In
bad.
every animated movie. That's, I
Yes.
think, what you're talking about.
What if you're trying to get like a social media shot from a tall building and you fall to your death?
That's a great one.
Yeah.
I hate those videos on the
OLI?
internet of like some guy at like a top of a skyscraper just like taking a selfie. It's like
Scary.
not worth it, dude. I know you have like 17 million views on this, so you probably got paid, but still not worth it.
I got tons more. The people who fall into the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Not going to feel badly for you.
So you have a top 10 now.
I feel bad for people who have falls generally. Yeah.
Taking a photo of themselves.
Could just be that they slipped, lost their footing. I feel bad about
Here's
that.
another one. Getting hit by a train.
I'm with them.
What?
Yes.
What about Brightline?
It's
You
a
don't go on the
train.
tracks. I
Why are
mean-
you near a track? Even if you're hard of hearing and you say, "Oh, I didn't hear the train," why are you on a
That's a
train
bad one.
track?
I'm just curious. Do you guys have limits on empathy? Like, do you have,
Yes,
like, if
they
you
do.
give up a certain amount of empathy, you can't have any more? So somebody, you know what? I'm okay if you die near the train tracks, but if you get hit by the train, that's where I draw the line. That's the place that I'm not going to feel bad for you. Even if it's my wife, even if it's my child, not going to feel bad for you because you deserve it.
If you go places you're not supposed to go, we're saying we don't feel bad for you if the worst case scenario happens.
All right, Diana Rossini is
So
with us now.
terrible
No, I'm not unfamiliar with what it is you guys are saying.
I
Yes,
know.
I
Just
find
wanted to clear it up,
I
Dana.
find it literally careless. Yes, I understand. You do not care. People die from a mistake, and you guys wouldn't make mistakes.
Not like that.
I mean, the mistake is walking on a train track. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't do
ridiculous.
it. There's
does
third
that?
rail. There's a lot of stuff that could happen.
Come on.
I mean,
The train's going faster than you are, buddy. Stay
Yeah.
away from the track.
yeah.
Jack.
Tracks are for trains, not people, Dan.
Diana Rossini is with us now. She's the senior NFL insider for The Athletic. She's got a great podcast called Scoop City. It's co-hosted with Chase Daniel. You could check out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Diana, would you like to pick up this conversation with us? Where do you side on not having any sympathy, not having any empathy for the dead?
Yeah, pretty cold of everyone there. I sympathize because I'm pretty flaky myself. So while I don't think people intentionally are putting themselves in those positions, I just don't think they're thinking about, oh my gosh, I could probably die. Like I take the subway a lot and I stand very, very close to the end of the platform there. Someone could easily push me. I could fall. I mean, I'm always on my phone. I'm surprised I haven't even done that yet. So it's not that I haven't thought about it. I'm just not thinking about it at that moment. So yeah, I have, especially the selfie people. I always feel so bad for them. They're just trying to capture the moment. It's so hard out there on social media. I get it. You want to grab the shot, and these people are willing to put their lives on the line for this. I mean, I feel really bad for them.
But someone pushing you would be murder, and I would feel bad for you. I would.
Yeah, for sure.
But what if I tripped?
I'd feel bad for you.
Don't go near train tracks.
No, but if she tripped onto the train track, then I would feel bad for her. She's not intentionally walking onto the train track.
Were you on the yellow line or behind it?
What if I was texting or tweeting a Devontae Adams story?
Yeah, the sympathy decreases at that point.
Yeah.
I think the
Being
point
perfectly
is there's some gray area here. Perhaps we shouldn't just blanketly say we don't feel bad for other people when they die in horrible accidents.
What about Jack Dougherty? He was texting and he got into the car crash.
I almost brought that up, actually. That was absurd.
So I don't feel badly if he had croaked doing that.
Wow.
So what have we decided is the dumbest way to die?
I don't think we've come up with a decision just yet, but skydiving seemed to be amongst everybody here. It seemed to be the highest ranking form of death that would elicit no sympathy from anybody. In all instances, anyone dies, I feel for them and their loved ones. Like that's, I'm not putting a cap on how much I care about people.
Or how they die.
What if they're bungee jumping off a rocky cliff?
Yeah.
Again, adventure seekers. And how about those flying squirrel costumes that people do that seem like an amazing adrenaline rush as you're very close to the edges of mountains and you feel like a superhero for a moment? I'm sure many people die that way, and those people are living life more fancifully than I am.
And dying ridiculously.
Yeah.
Guys, we have breaking news right now. Adam Schefter tweeted 2 minutes ago, ESPN sources Jets fire head coach Robert Saleh.
What?
Oh, Diana is reacting to this.
She's on with us?
We've got an insider right now who is looking at this. Her mouth is open. We have a natural in the wild video of Diana getting the news from her phone. She's too busy talking with us about stupid shit.
Do you think Belichick called? I mean,
We ruined Diana's morning.
Did you
Way
miss
to
a
go,
text
everyone.
with us, Diana?
She's got to go. She's got
We were
talking about the lack of empathy for the dead.
Oh, Schefter scooped her.
We are wasting her time.
Do we feel bad for Robert Saleh?
We have to
I
feel
bad for Diana.
I feel bad for Diana.
Crazy. Of course.
That's terrible.
In the middle of Dan clarifying, you know what? When people die, I feel bad for them. This news happened.
In a flying squirrel suit. That's
so
what we were
bad.
talking about.
She just bailed.
We'll see
She has
whether
to.
or not she comes back. While we wait for her, Stugotz, your thoughts on not only the Jets firing Robert Saleh, but as
She's back. Hold on. I want to see this.
all right,
The working
hold
of the
on.
phones right now.
I spelled it wrong.
Oh, man. Who? What?
Okay, she is.
I'm with you. Is there an E at the end? An A?
right.
Saleh?
I don't
Saleh?
like viewing this. I feel uncomfortable.
I knew this was
watching
going to
this.
happen.
Diana,
I knew
should-
this was going to happen.
Should we stop? Like, do you want to get off camera
Okay,
here? Oh, you're back. Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
okay, what do you guys want to know?
What happened?
Well, tell us what it is that's happening right now, and I don't feel good viewing you in the wild this way. Your stress shouldn't be.
These are things I don't want to see.
Your
I mean,
anxiety shouldn't be videoed by us.
No, it's fine. It's fine. This is the job. I love this stuff, guys. I don't love people getting fired, but look, this doesn't come as a extreme shock. The only thing that is maybe catching me off guard a little bit on this is they decided to run it back this year with Robert Saleh. Woody Johnson made that decision himself, right? There were definitely some people in that building suggesting they move on from Robert Saleh after last year's disaster. We did tons of reporting on just a lot of issues that they were having in that building outside of the fact that Aaron Rodgers was injured. There was just really bad coaching decisions being made. We've seen it, and it bled into this year. So I'm surprised when they had an opportunity to do it, they didn't do it when you do it at the start of the season. So obviously coming back from London's bad, guys. Losing in London is no good. This is where all the problems start. I think it's the long flight. I think it's the embarrassment on international television. It's everything. The Jets have been focused on trying to get Devontae Adams in that building. I think Robert Saleh has been trying to do essentially what he thinks is going to be best for Aaron Rodgers in all of this. Aaron obviously has all the power in that organization. So now, we see Robert Saleh's been let go here, and I'm trying to just find out who's going to be the interim here. So that's what we're going to work on next. But you have to wonder, do you go with someone already on? There is nobody, maybe Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, who's done a really good job. I know the players love him. Is that the right fit?
I think it'd be Hackett. I think it would be Hackett if they go that route.
Stu, it's not Hackett.
Well, if he's running the organization, Diana, that's his best friend. So I could see, I could envision a scenario in which he promotes Nathaniel Hackett, the head coach, and they go on, and he wants to have a good season for his friend. I could see that happening.
Stu, no.
Okay.
Look, I'll come back on if that gets me. If I get this information right now that's the truth, I'll stay on for the whole show and we can discuss how ridiculous that is.
Okay.
But look, does Woody Johnson call Andrew Berry in Cleveland right now and say, "Give me Mike Vrabel, bring him in here, clean this up right now"? Like, can you make this team better?
Do you fire him without knowing what you're going to do? Wouldn't you already know what you're going to do? And of course, Belichick's available.
No, Belichick is available.
Yep.
Diana, let me stop you for a second.
Yeah.
Why don't you go do your job and we'll check back in with you? Do you want to go do your job so that we're not in your way?
Dan, I appreciate that. Can you guys give me 10? I just
Yes,
need
go
a
do
10
your
on the
job.
day if you
Go
need
to-
to,
You know
yes.
what? In fact, just
Yes.
turn her sound down so we can watch her and
Right.
just watch her go crazy. Put her in picture, and so we can watch her be nuts, and we will talk about this because, Stugotz, you are a Jets fan,
Yep.
and I haven't talked to you about what happened on Sunday, which is Robert Saleh just got fired because Aaron Rodgers was terrible. And they've given Aaron Rodgers all of the power in the organization. And the last 2 weeks, they needed somebody to win the game at the end, and he couldn't do it. They were good enough to be in both of those games at the end.
Yep.
They missed a field goal, and then they lose against an undefeated Minnesota team because he can't close off the drive. So tell us how it is that you're feeling as a Jets fan. You've been talking for a while about Saleh needs to be gone.
Yeah, and it's interesting because not only did you lose that game, you lost it to Sam Darnold, who was a quarterback you drafted in the top 5 of the NFL draft, and he didn't play that well, and you still lost that game. And Aaron has to finish those games off. I said this last week. I've been watching that Jet game for 40 years, and what I expected to be different was, I have a great quarterback now. They're going to finish these games. They're going to finish every one of these games, and they haven't been able to do so. You're all in with Aaron Rodgers. So if Rodgers doesn't want Saleh there, why would you keep the coach around when a guy like Belichick or Vrabel is available and wanting to coach? I like the move. I think the Jets had to do it because Aaron Rodgers wanted them to do it, and they're all in with Aaron Rodgers. I'm good with that.
So when you're doing a midseason firing like this, there's only one of two ways. Either the owner goes to the GM and says, we're firing the manager today. That's it. I won't do it. I'm not going to watch this guy coach my team one more time. Or the main player on your team.
It was the main player.
Goes to the owner and says, you're going to blow the season. We've got to do it now before it's too late. I think those are the only two possibilities. And in the Jets case, I think it's more Rodgers to Johnson because Johnson, this is not his MO.
No.
To do something in the middle of the season. So I think this is more Rodgers trying to cover up his inadequacies at 41 by saying, listen, we're going to blame Saleh for this because I'm not playing well enough.
Is it fair to say that the Aaron Rodgers experiment is failing? It seems to me it is. You can't.
They have a game Monday night for first place. I mean, if they win the game, they're in first place.
It's because
it's been a while since I could say that.
Okay,
Greg.
unexpectedly, it's turned into a shit division.
Right.
Pardon my French. But it just, you can't fault him for being injured all last season. But you can look at him this year and say, you know what? He's got a legit number one receiver. He's got a good running back. Why aren't they scoring more? Why is he not closing games? Why isn't he not winning a couple of games that were very winnable? I'm not saying it's a failure right now. I'm saying at some point, when does a Jet fan say the Aaron Rodgers thing ain't working?
It's also very curious because Saleh he's a defensive coach, right? And their defense, they're a little shaky at times this season, but they're still rated top 5 in a lot of key categories.
They've been fine.
On defense.
Yeah, the problem's been Aaron.
Certainly not the reason that they lost on Sunday.
But that's why this is interesting, because the problem has been Aaron Rodgers and not Robert Saleh, and Woody Johnson sided with the quarterback and not the coach.
Stugotz is saying here that Sam Darnold didn't play well on Sunday. He didn't play well because that Jets defense is really good.
Right, and the guy responsible for that is gone.
Aaron Rodgers has as many points through 5 games as Zach Wilson did last year. And we remember that they ran Zach Wilson out of town. If the bottom line is point scoring, you understand how it is that Aaron Rodgers would get most of the blame on what it is that's happening here, because 3 interceptions in a game, and not just that. I don't know if you felt this on Sunday, Stugotz. It felt familiar, the way that he was getting battered at his age, to seeing the way that Brett Favre was getting hit around the same age when he could no longer move around the pocket the way that he could when he was younger.
Right.
And you can see that the speed of the game on a 40-year-old, you can all see, they don't all get to age like Brady just because we're in the age of LeBron James can play into his 40s and Diana Taurasi can play into her 40s. Not everyone gets to age into their 40s. Most quarterbacks by 38 are done.
But, Dan, we're 3 weeks removed from Rodgers just picking apart a good Patriots defense. He was fantastic. And people were saying after that game, I was saying after that game, that's the best game I've seen a Jet quarterback play in my entire life. He was so good in that game.
The last 2 games that I have seen of Aaron Rodgers, all I see is 4-yard passes. All I see is slants and checkdowns and nothing down the field. When you have a number 1 receiver that I've been told is a down-the-field threat.
Yeah.
And Mike Williams, when he was a number 2 with the Chargers, was formidable. And as a 2 or a 3 with the Jets, hasn't done much of anything. There has been a power struggle in New York, and your quarterback just won it. They have given over the entirety of the organization over to him. He's had sparks with Saleh, right and left, Stugotz. There have been little public sparks with Saleh.
Shove.
And now, as David Samson says, it's a rare thing for someone to do this mid-season or this early in the season when you're playing.
It's a rare thing for this owner to do it, that's for sure.
But of course,
Yes.
it's win now, right now, because of Aaron Rodgers' age.
As
but
it should be.
The thing that I wanted to say to you, as Diana Rossini got a little bit surprised by that while we were on the air with her, I just don't think that you do this unless you know what you're doing next. Like, you don't just fire him without knowing what the next news is.
According to Zach Rosenblatt from The Athletic, Jeff Ulbrich will be the interim coach. So he's the defensive coordinator and now the interim coach. Apparently, according to Zach, he's beloved by the entire Jets roster and staff.
Well, that always works.
So it's not Hackett, huh?
This makes me wonder. This really does make me wonder about what happened on Sunday between Rodgers and Saleh that would make Rodgers just go to the owner and say, "Get him out of here. This isn't working because of what's happening with the coach."
Did you see those overthrow interceptions I had? Get him out of here.
Well, it started in the preseason, right, with them announcing that Rodgers was missing camp and going to Egypt. Like that's where it started in terms of the bad relationship.
There could have been a Girardi here, though. Let's not say that it couldn't have happened. There's a chance that Saleh did something to Woody that just Woody said that you may not, that's a line you may not cross. A Girardi is when your manager does something to your owner that's the end of it. You get fired that second.
Like, hey, this quarterback's not very good. Why did you guys trade for him?
Get out of here.
There is also another possibility, which is that on the long trip to London, they only had one option for in-flight entertainment that the head coach chose, and Aaron Rodgers did not like it. They ended up watching some really terrible movie on the way there. So I wouldn't rule that out.
You sleep on the way over.
I do rule that out.
Do you?
I do rule out that it was the movie choice on the flight. Yeah.
We're watching I Love You, Man again?
Diana, you're stressing me out. We'll get you out of here in a second. I assume you have a job you've got to go do. What kind of updates do you want to give us? Can you give us on everything happening with the Jets? I'd like to ask you football questions, but I don't want to keep you from the things that you have to do that are more important than what you're doing right now with us. So give us what you got and get out of here.
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, no. Thank you so much for understanding. Yeah, this is definitely a little stunning. And I know when the story broke, I shared with you guys that it was stunning. Not because Robert Saleh is getting fired. I don't think anyone here on the show would agree, especially you, Stu, that he's a top 10 head coach. But the philosophy from this organization has really just been since this season of let's just run this thing back. And look, we spent time talking about the Egypt situation and how it appeared Saleh and Aaron Rodgers were not on the same page there. And I felt like that was the start of this. That's where this thing started to take off, where it just didn't always feel or appear that Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh were on the same page this year. So look, while I stepped away during commercial there to get some information, it was explained to me by a good source that Woody Johnson looked at the situation, looked at his roster, and said, my roster's really good. This thing is built to win. This thing is built to go to the Super Bowl. And based on what we have right now, where we're at after 3.5 years with Robert Saleh, I've got to make the move now. Now is the time. And whether that means looking for new leadership, a spark, whatever it is, he just did not believe that Robert Saleh is the right guy to take this team from now to the playoffs, with that being their goal in mind.
Greg Cody is making disgusted faces at what you just said. He's disgusted.
No, it's not what you said, Diana. It's the idea that Woody Johnson would think that he had a Super Bowl roster. I don't see that.
When you get Aaron Rodgers, you think you have a Super Bowl roster.
Good roster.
But that's putting too much credit to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron is 41 and playing like it. I don't think the Aaron Rodgers experiment is
but
working.
it's a win now roster. When your quarterback's 41, you're about winning this year.
And how's that going?
Okay, but there's no time to waste. How it's going is they fired their coach quicker than anyone else did because they're on a win now formula more than any other teams that are failing right now.
Okay, I mean, I don't think it was any kind of a consensus that this is a Super Bowl team. I don't know what the preseason betting odds are, but I bet the Jets weren't in the top five.
The Jets were favored to win the
They
division
were,
to
yes.
start the season.
Greg, I have never
Over
been.
the Bills?
Yes, they were. Greg, I've never been in a win now mode. Can I enjoy it? I mean, seriously.
Well, no is the answer. You just fired your coach.
Yeah, I know, because it's a win now mode. I mean, that's what you do when you're in a win now mode. You fire your coach. I mean, 5 games in, that's how you do it.
So do you feel better now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Diana, get out of here. I'm going to do this as gently as possible. Get the hell out of here. You're stressing.
guys.
You're stressing me out.
If we get to, I'm sorry, my energy stinks today. This
Get out
is
of
just
here.
what it is. And if I get anything juicy, I'll definitely call back in.
Is that why Woj retired? Did we just
Yes.
witness it
Yes.
right in front of us?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
She looked miserable.
Yes.
There was a time when Schefter was on this show taking basketball calls, and he missed a big story, and he was furious.
Yes, it's
Yes.
an unpleasant way to go through life. Let's clean the palate here a little bit. Let's get to weekend observations before we get to John Morales, the meteorologist who's going to make us sad again. Let's see if we can be happy again for about 15 minutes.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations brought to you by Miller Lite. Great taste, just 96 calories, available for delivery. Dan, the one constant in this sport is to expect the unexpected. Unranked teams are always waiting in the shadows, ready to strike at any moment, and Saturday, they got their moment. Because in this sport, crazy is the norm. Arkansas beating Tennessee, Minnesota beating USC, and the Holy Grail of Vanderbilt beating Alabama. And Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, chaos is back.
It's October.
It's exciting.
Samson poo-pooing giant upsets in college football.
Vanderbilt. Normally, I'd tell you to act like you've been there before, but you've never been there before.
Except in college baseball, I learned yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, a couple of World Series.
Powerhouse, huh?
Yeah.
Nobody cares about that.
Huh.
And bowling.
Vanderbilt, Alabama. Any given Saturday. Vanderbilt, Alabama. Dan, that's why they play the games. Kalen DeBoer, Nick Saban used to laugh at letdown games. Vanderbilt should get an automatic bid. Dan, you know what the S in Saban stands for?
Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Should Vanderbilt get an automatic bid to the playoffs? What does the S stand for in Saban?
Smiles. All smiles.
That is totally what I think about when I think of Nick Saban.
He's been great on TV.
Just a room full of smiles.
I mean, he's enjoying Kalen DeBoer losing to Vanderbilt. He has to be enjoying that, no?
Put it on the poll. Did Nick Saban enjoy Alabama losing to Vanderbilt?
No.
No.
I mean, did you hear the calls to Feinbaum? Georgia, do it against Alabama. Alabama, do it against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, do it against Georgia State. The Panthers, by my math, Vanderbilt should be ranked higher than Georgia, and Georgia State should be the number 1 team in the country. How about that?
Georgia Southern, I thought.
They beat Georgia State.
Oh.
They should be the number 1 team in the country.
Did you confuse Georgia State?
No,
and
I got it right.
Georgia Southern?
I got it
Okay.
right. I'm just saying Georgia State beat
you're
Vanderbilt,
right. It
which
was
is
Georgia
funny.
State. I
Yes,
confused
thank you.
it.
Right. But Georgia Southern beat Georgia State.
Oh, you're right. Okay, no, I didn't confuse it.
Where was it?
Georgia Southern beat Georgia State and should be the number 1 team in the country.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Alabama. It's one thing to lose to a team going through a metaphorical rebuild, but it's unacceptable to lose to a team that is literally rebuilding their stadium during the season.
They're the only ones doing that, right? They're the only stadium that's under construction during the season.
Yes. I've always said, Dan, nobody goes into a half-built, under construction Vanderbilt stadium and walks out alive. Crimson Tide learned that the hard way. Shohei Ohtani, do it later in October. It's pretty good.
It's a good one.
Thank you. A defensive tackle trying to return an interception will always make me smile. You see it last night?
Do you want to play the sound for that, Chris Cody, of Kevin Harlan doing the call on a thick pick, what he was calling a thick pick?
good.
It is something that will always make you smile.
Here we go, 2nd down and goal. Mahomes in the gun, the 2 in New Orleans. P. Ryan in motion. There's the shotgun snap, the fake handoff, the quick throw at the goal line. It's deflected and it's intercepted on the play by Saunders. He runs the big man, the 10, near sideline 20, on the near sideline 30. Got a blocking from behind. The former Chief is taken down. The Saints big man got it on the ricochet at the goal line on a pass intended for Smith-Schuster. That was a thick pick. That was a thick pick.
The thick pick made by the brother of one of Taylor Swift's backup dancers. Interesting note.
It is.
Did Kelsey get him the job?
Well, it was an interception against the Chiefs, so I assume no, but you never know.
You do know. You know that that's not what happened.
That's not what I heard.
Just trying to support my teammate.
You never know.
You never know.
But you do know. You do know.
I like that. Vanderbilt's football stadium is like I-95 in South Florida. Feels like they've been working on it since the 90s. I mean, seriously, fix I-95 already and build that damn stadium. It's crazy. Jags, off the schneid. The Jets losing was bad enough. The Jets losing to Sam Darnold was the icing on the cake.
What is the schneid?
I have no idea.
Do any of you know what a schneid is?
I don't know, but the Jags are off it.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Do you know what a schneid is?
I thought it was Yiddish.
Really?
If it isn't, it should be.
Bills lost. Jets, Bills. Monday night in New York for first place. I love them. I can't quit them. They're like cigarettes. If the Marlins had any fans, it would kill them to see what Jazz Chisholm is doing for the Yankees in the postseason. Aaron Judge, we're waiting.
We really are.
Taylor, Aaron Boone, hot seat. Taylor. John Birdie is no Tino Martinez. Taylor. Gleyber Torres is no Chuck Knobloch. Taylor. Garrett Cole is no Andy Pettit or David Cohn or Don Larson or David Wells. Boomer and Taylor. On WFAN, they are saying it feels like the Yankees are down 0-2 and the Mets are up 0-2. Well done, boys.
Up 2-0.
Up 2-0, sorry. Well done, boys. 20 shares. Bill Belichick, Alabama, collision course.
Want to update that one?
Yeah. Bill Belichick, New York Jets, collision course. In hindsight, if you told Alabama they would go 1-1 versus Georgia and Vanderbilt, they'd probably take it.
No, they wouldn't.
Yeah, they would.
Taylor.
They'd want to go 2-0.
I mean, they would, but they take 1-1. Figure they beat Vanderbilt, it was a close one to Georgia.
Taylor texted me that this weekend.
Me too.
They lost to the wrong team, Dana.
I know that's what
you lose. If you want to lose to Georgia. I mean,
To be fair, I would have taken 1-1 against Texas A&M in Northern Illinois, but you don't get the choice, unfortunately.
if you're Vanderbilt, I think you hang a banner for that win. Diego Pavia, on the other hand, statue. Imagine how confused a bachelorette party was on Broadway to see goalposts being carried throughout the streets.
in Vanderbilt.
That's so funny. Lamar Jackson, do it in the postseason. The Chiefs are so good, they're winning with the same team they won with 5 years ago. It's crazy. Juju Smith-Schuster, Kareem Hunt. You know what the Chiefs are doing, Dan?
I do not.
They're putting the band back together. How are they doing this? Why are they doing this?
Putting the Band-Aid back together.
They don't care who, as long as 15 is healthy, they don't care who surrounds him.
But
they had 4 tight ends playing at one time last night.
But they're winning with defense.
Yes.
Like, they're not winning with offense.
Spags.
26 points is an outburst for them now.
The Bengals are the best 1-4 team in NFL history. They are.
They lost to the Patriots.
I don't care.
At home.
So?
How many 1-4 teams did you compare them to?
Oh, don't do that to him. He just likes to say something is the biggest thing in history and doesn't take any inventory of history.
I'll tell you right now, look at the Bengals' schedule. They will be 5-4 before they play Baltimore again. They're going to win the next 4.
Burrow's doing great.
He's been great. He really has. Has anyone checked in on Michael Irvin?
Yes, it is what it is. Did Cameron and Mace checked in with him, and he said he threw out his back on the sidelines and just stayed there because he had thrown out his back and they were coming back, and so he just remained there
Wasn't expecting an update there. Thank you.
My back is killing me. Maybe I'll just do that the rest of the show. Damn it, why'd I say that?
Yeah, go ahead and do that behind me right now. Can someone else
I gotta do the buttons here.
No,
That's the
someone else
sounder.
can do that. Just show her where it is. Show
It's really
Jess-
hard to
It's
do.
not really hard to do. Go ahead and do this behind me. Get behind me now and just show her how to do it.
That's all she had to learn?
That's it.
Just that one button?
There's just a button.
A crash
Yes.
course in how it is to executive produce this show.
All right, Jess, let's do this. You ready? The C in Cal stands for choke job. In honor of Cal, my top 5 bears in sports. OLI. Yogi Bear. Not sports. Bobby Abear.
I thought you were doing Yogi Berra on purpose. I thought you were
It was
pronouncing
Yogi Bear. I got it
know,
wrong.
but I just thought
It
you
was
were
that was
doing
a bad
that.
job I made.
Yeah.
Jack Nicklaus. The Golden Bear. Number 5, Smokey the Bear. Should be number 1. Number 4, Bear Bryant.
Who's Smokey the Bear in sports?
I said inside or outside of sports. That's
Okay.
what I said.
My bad.
All right. Number 3, Walter Payton. Excellent, Jess. Sweetness. Number 2, Chris Felica. And number 1, Dano, Peter Alonso. I just saw Chris.
Does anyone call him Peter?
The polar bear.
No one calls him Peter.
Jessica's
They do.
doing great.
Yes, she is.
Yeah. You know who didn't lose this weekend? Army and Navy. Both 5-0. They win every weekend. And we here on the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz and Greg Cody today, we, of course, would like to thank you all for your service.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right on.
That's going to be a big game, man. Army-Navy. Brings me back to a time. Undefeated, spot in the playoff. That is going to be
the
insane.
1920s is that time.
You think they're going to go undefeated the rest of the entire season?
I do.
They both play Notre Dame, so that would be terrible for me.
Oh, wow. Michigan, Washington. The rare national title game rematch. Featuring neither head coach.
I pressed it and nothing happened.
And no expectations. Think about that, Dan. A national championship rematch. Both coaches are gone. Huh? Crazy. If AI ever gets really good, I would have Kevin Harlan and AI Kevin Harlan's calling every single game.
Put it on the poll at Le
Thank you.
Batard Show. Would you be okay with AI Kevin Harlan's calling every game?
Kyle Shanahan. Blah, blah, blah. Brock Purdy. Blah, blah, blah. Doug Peterson. Congratulations on buying yourself another week. The Detroit Tigers would be easy to root for if it wasn't for Jeremy Taché.
Taylor?
I mean, they're not your team.
They are my team.
Commanders, team to beat. Allow me. Excuse me. I don't know what happened there. I mean, John Morales is waiting patiently. He's emotional. Chris is doing whatever Chris does. Allow me to be the first one to say it. Caleb Williams will be better than Jaden Daniels.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. Jabril, I can't say his name.
Jabril.
Peppers. Thought the C on his jersey stood for cocaine. Spags. That's all I got.
That's all you got?
Spags, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's bags.
Giants. Showing signs of life. No matter what side I bet on in a Cardinals game, I'm always on the wrong one.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Are you always on the wrong side when you bet an Arizona Cardinals game? You have never spoken truer words.
Bengals, Ravens. Throw out the record. Dodgers, Padres. Put the kids to bed. I'm sure the Bengals would love to throw out their record. Bengals, Ravens. The rare game where 389 passing yards and 5 touchdowns isn't enough. Crazy. Andrew Van Ginkel has more touchdowns this year than Tyreek Hill. What the hell? Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations. Chris, I caught eye contact with you that one time.
I will tell you that as someone who has lived in South Florida all his life, when there was a giant storm once upon a time, Hurricane Andrew, Brian Norcross was someone who soothed me and the people of South Florida. John Morales has been doing this for South Florida for a long time. He is South Florida's very own meteorologist. He is a 3-time Emmy Award winner for NBC6. He's been doing it for 40 years now, and in some ways today, he's America's weatherman, because on Monday night, a lot of people noticed the fear and emotion of a meteorologist looking at a storm that is hell-bent on uncommon and close to unprecedented destruction that is headed to the west coast of Florida. And let's play that video for the people again so they can see and hear for themselves the fear inside of John Morales as he looks at what this storm is about to do to the west coast of Florida.
It's just an incredible, incredible, incredible hurricane. It has dropped It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours. I apologize. This is just horrific. The seas are just so incredibly, incredibly hot, record hot, as you might imagine. You know what's driving that. I don't need to tell you. Global warming, climate change, leading to this and becoming an increasing threat.
John, thank you for joining us. I want soothing from you. I don't believe you're about to give it to us, though. Can you tell us what is happening with you there as you see what is about to happen here to the west coast of Florida?
Well, it could become the hurricane of record for many locations on the west coast of Florida. The angle of approach, the intensity, and the expanding wind field are going to lead to a very deep storm surge that's going to impact not just a small percentage of the coast. For example, Ian in 2022, which was extremely impactful in terms of storm surge depth, but Ian only impacted southwestern Florida. Here, we're talking about a hurricane that could impact half of the west coast or the Gulf Coast of the state of Florida, and therefore the damage would be much more widespread in terms of what the storm surge can do, and we all know what the storm surge can do, in addition, of course, to the windstorm, to the tornadoes, and to the flooding rains.
What is more dangerous here, John, the storm surge or the winds?
Well, the storm surge it tends to cause more property damage and claim more lives than the wind will do. So while the wind is scary, you can hide from the wind, but you must run from the water. You must run from the water.
Can you explain to us the historic precedent on 10, 12, 15 feet of storm surge?
Well, I mean, so the 15 feet, 10 to 15 feet is being forecast in general for the Tampa Bay area, as well as points just south of there, including Sarasota. If you go back, as far as we have records of, what has impacted that region going back to the 19th century, this would surpass any and all records in terms of the depth of the storm surge. Now, a caveat here. This is greatly dependent on the exact track of the hurricane. So if the eye crosses Greater Tampa or just to the north of Greater Tampa, you will see that materialize. If it passes just south of the Greater Tampa area, then that'll materialize further down the coast. But in Tampa, they would have dodged a bullet.
Can you explain to us how far inland the ocean will eat land when you're talking about that kind of storm surge?
Well, one of the complications about Tampa Bay, of course, is that, it's a bay, and there are, different channels and rivers that feed into that area, and you'll see the water creep up through there and be able to penetrate further inland. That's what happened during Hurricane Ian, when there was a significant surge many miles inland. That's something I've looked at very carefully in my role as an expert meteorologist in litigation, right? I mean, there's a lot of weather that gets litigated in this state, And the storm surge is something I've studied very carefully for Ian, and it got far, far inland.
John, earlier on the show, we played a clip of the mayor of Tampa warning everyone, if you stay, you're going to die.
In evacuation areas.
In evacuation areas. Do you want to echo that sentiment?
Well, so, I mean, for Helene, people died, right? So I most definitely will echo that sentiment. You should heed evacuation orders. Try to set American individualism, this feeling that is part of our culture, try to set that aside for a second and save yourself and your family. You'll worry about the property later, but it's important to leave the coast because nobody can survive a 15-foot storm surge.
Did you see the Marjorie Taylor Greene where she said that they can control the weather? Was that you that's the they, or was it we who are the they?
Yeah. Let me just say, I mean, it is sad to see the state of affairs, and I've written about this, and I invite folks to read my columns in the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. I know that's super geeky, about as geeky as me losing it over 50 millibars of pressure drop yesterday.
Not geeky.
But I've written about this era, this post-truth era that we're living in, and you see how that type of comment just gets picked up and spread like wildfire in this era that we're living in. And it is so massively counterproductive. We are not controlling the weather. The weather is the weather, and the extremes of weather are getting worse because of the warming climate. This was all forecasted. This is all consistent with what you would expect in a warming world. And it's part of my frustration between that and empathy for the future victims of the hurricane and angst over the multiplication of extreme weather events. All that combined yesterday to lead to that moment, which I wish hadn't happened, but I guess I'm human.
But in plain terms, John, because the layman doesn't understand what 50 millibars of pressure means, but I've been watching this over the last 5 days, and we were a little bit over 1,000, and forecasters were worried about just that. And so I'm imagining that what's making you emotional is, at least in part, oh my God, we've underestimated this thing. Planes are now giving us new information. What is happening in layman's terms when you're having that reaction to 50 millibars of pressure?
It's the opposite. It's the fact that we knew this would happen. Rapid intensification was explicitly called for by the National Hurricane Center on this hurricane. Yeah, they said it would stop at 4. It got to 5 like this. You got to keep in mind, it went from a Cat 1 to a Cat 5 in the span of 18 hours. And we woke up Sunday morning with a mundane 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm. And here I am, moments from going on air on NBC6, and that breaking news from the National Hurricane Center comes across just that second, indicating that it had become a Category 5. I looked at the pressure, I did the quick math in my head, and I go, 50 millibars of pressure drop in 10 hours? That's just blows your mind. And it was just the realization that here we are again, another rapidly intensifying hurricane. This is happening much more often. It's going to impact so many people, not just in 2024, but for years to come, with more and more hurricanes doing this. And it's just a sad situation that we have to find a way to adapt to, but it's hard to adapt to the rapidly changing climate.
John, the way weather is getting so much more extreme, so much more dangerous, is it inevitable that people in your line of work are going to have to come up with a Category 6 because hurricanes are going to get worse and worse over time?
Yeah, so that's a good question. But generally speaking, you'll find a consensus amongst meteorologists that there's no need for that. And I've got a very brief explanation of why that is. When you look at the Saffir-Simpson scale, Category 1, 2, all the way through 5, and you look at what to expect in a Category 4 versus a Category 5, and the word that is used for each one of those two categories is catastrophic. So is there something beyond catastrophic? I mean, what would we assign for potential damage from a Category 6? So in other words, once you get to Cat 4 and above, it's a catastrophe in the making, and I think that's the way we need to look at these things.
First, I want to say, John, I'm a big fan of yours. I've been following you since I moved to South Florida 4 years ago, and have really appreciated your sort of steady and calming perspective on all of the sort of weird weather incidents we've had down here since I moved here. So I wanted to thank you. And second, I wanted to ask you, are sports podcasters essential workers?
Yes. Yes. So Jeremy, you're in trouble. You got to do more Marlin stuff for me, okay?
I got you, John.
Not the answer they wanted, though. They wanted the next couple.
I was being serious.
They wanted
go home.
They wanted the next couple of days off, and John Morales, who you praised a lot at the beginning of that as an
He
expert,
doesn't know what he's talking about.
just told you that you're an essential worker. John, can you explain to me, please, the best case and worst case scenarios that you are forecasting here? A jog to the south. What are the best and worst case scenarios, with the understanding that wherever this hits, it's going to be catastrophic?
I mean, I would think that the best case scenario is for this to hit south of Naples, right? And then the storm surge will be limited to Florida Bay. But of course, that's bad news for the Florida Keys, right? So like you just said, I mean, if it doesn't hit one, it hits another. But the thing about that scenario that I just described is that you wouldn't have the mass infrastructure that is present from the Southwest Florida corridor all the way up through Tampa, where it's just city after city after city. When there's things in harm's way, that's how you end up with these big property losses. And think of the human element of this. And I think that's part of what happens to me when I'm talking about these extreme weather events. You know how many people don't have flood insurance? You know how many retirees were in Florida during Hurricane Ian? That, they saved their entire lives. They wanted to move to Florida. They moved to a double wide, in a mobile home park because, that's what they could afford. And then everything gets wiped out and you lose absolutely everything and there's no insurance to cover for that. Well, I mean, that's going to happen yet again. So that would be one good scenario. The other one would be for it to lose strength, but warning, hurricanes that reach Category 5 and then lose strength and arrive at the coast as a Category 2 or Category 3, it's too late. Everything is already baked in. This wind field is growing. The buildup of the waves that generates the storm surge as it piles water towards the coast, that's already being cooked as this system is a Cat 4 and a Cat 5. So it's going to be difficult to avoid another multi-billion-dollar disaster.
Do you think, John, and I don't wish to fearmonger here, but I just want your expertise, are you concerned that this is the storm of your lifetime?
Unfortunately, and sad to say, there's going to be more, right? Helene was the storm of a lifetime for Western North Carolina. Ian was the costliest in the history of Florida. Andrew was the storm of a lifetime for folks in southern Dade County. And that PTSD is still present today. Listen, I was on TV as well in South Florida during Hurricane Andrew. Norcross was doing it in English. I was doing it in Spanish. So I lived that. And the trauma of having to survive a hurricane of that nature is something that scars you for life. And that's why people get so nervous. Whoever survived a major hurricane gets really nervous when anything is brewing out there in the Atlantic. And I have empathy for that. That's why I've always tried to be the non-alarmist. But these weather extremes, man, it's so hard to remain non-alarmist when what we're seeing is just off the charts.
Andrew is the worst of my lifetime, but it didn't have this storm surge.
That's right. So the storm surge was 14 feet. You might recall what was left of the Burger King headquarters down there in Palmetto Bay, which was not much. The building got gutted and then eventually got rebuilt. But many communities along the coast of Biscayne Bay got absolutely swamped by that storm surge. But it was a very compact hurricane. This one is going to be much wider with its wind field, and that's why the impacts are going to hurt so many people.
South Florida specifically, what are you forecasting for South Florida?
Right. So the good news is this is one of the better places to be in the state in terms of impacts. You know, one thing that'll be different from Helene is that because the wind field is expanding, I would anticipate sustained winds to be stronger. Sustained now. There's a difference between sustained and gusts. Sustained needs to average that velocity for an entire minute. And I would anticipate sustained winds to be somewhere in the 30s. 35 miles an hour or so at times, with gusts to 50, 55 miles per hour. So that's why a tropical storm warning has been issued for our area. They are expecting tropical storm conditions as well. Let's not discount the risk of isolated tornadoes. It's still raining. It's raining out my door right now. There is a risk for flooding rains amongst all this. So please keep that in mind. The only good thing that we're escaping is the storm surge. The Florida Keys might have one, but it looks like the southeast coast of Metro Miami and Metro Fort Lauderdale will get to avoid a significant storm surge.
Shifting gears here for just a second. John, you are Woody Johnson, and Bill Belichick calls you today. What do you do?
Well, so apologies.
He's the Jets owner. He should have told you that. He's the Jets
owner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Thought he knew.
Yeah, Jeremy knows this. I'm a baseball guy. Marlins.
Yeah, John, my apologies because you've probably been busy with a much bigger story here. Robert Saleh, the Jets coach, was fired. Woody Johnson is the Jets owner. Bill Belichick is a free agent. So I am making you in this scenario, Woody Johnson, and Bill Belichick. You already fired your coach. Bill Belichick, free agent Bill Belichick, calls you today. What do you do?
What do I do? Yeah. And what does this have to do with a hurricane?
Turns on postseason baseball instead.
It's my own personal storm,
Thank
John.
you for being on with us, John. We appreciate your time. This is it's just what I work with. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you for being on with us. Appreciate your general expertise at all times, sir.
You're the greatest.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome for 03.
He wasn't talking to you, Samson. He wanted to talk to only Jeremy. He was purposeful about ignoring you. Greg Cody, as a lifelong South Floridian, as you watch this thing, and I know that over the last couple of months, I have really annoyed people talking about this stuff because I don't want the real world coming to us, but I just don't know what to do with the idea that the Tampa Bay might have 15 feet of storm surge because it's just going to take out so much property and anybody who is there if that's where it hits.
You feel guilty feeling good that it's not hitting you because you know that means it's hitting
This is
someone
a new
else.
and unimproved Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. Gamble on by DraftKings.